A young girl named Mara was accused of witchcraft by the very people she called family, cast aside and abandoned to the mercy of the sea. But what they didn't know was that they had just pushed their kingdom's greatest secret into the depths. They thought they were ridding themselves of a dangerous outcast, but what they didn't realize was that the quiet girl they had feared was the daughter of both a king and a mermaid queen, tied to a centuries-old curse. What happened next would expose a hidden truth, spark a war between two worlds, and show both humans and merfolk that sometimes the most powerful forces are the ones hidden beneath the surface, waiting to rise. This is the story of how Mara, the child they called a witch, rose from the depths to reclaim her true heritage, confront the kingdoms that betrayed her, and decide if the price of peace was worth the loyalty she'd lost along the way. Before we get to it, let us know where you're watching from today. And if you're enjoying the story, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow's story is one you won't want to miss. The sun had just begun to set, casting its fiery red glow across the horizon. The people of Merriva were busy preparing for the evening feast, a celebration of the harvest and the kingdom's peace. But in the village of Ndera, just beyond the tall, green hills, there was no laughter, no joy. Only whispers. Whispers about a girl named Mara. Mara sat alone by the edge of the ocean, her bare feet sinking into the wet sand. The water whispered as it caressed the shore, but Mara's heart was heavy, like a stone in her chest. Her golden skin glowed in the fading light, her black hair flowing like a river of night around her shoulders. She was beautiful, yes, but she could see the fear in the eyes of the villagers as they passed her by. Witch, they would mutter under their breath. No one dared to speak to her openly, for fear of being cursed. They called her the Witch of Ndera, the girl whose very presence brought storms and bad harvests. It was not her fault. But the villagers didn't know that. They didn't know the truth. The ocean's waves crashed louder as the wind picked up, and Mara shivered. She had never felt like she belonged in Ndera. She had always known there was something different about her, something that no one could explain. Her dreams were strange, filled with underwater castles and voices that called her name in the deep. The truth was hidden deep within her, buried beneath layers of fear, lies, and ancient magic. And today, the truth would find its way to the surface. Suddenly, a voice broke through the wind, calling her name. Mara. She spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. Standing at the edge of the water was a woman, cloaked in the shadows of the night. Her face was pale, her long, silver hair rippling as though it too were part of the water. Her eyes, deep and knowing, gleamed in the darkness. Mara, the woman said again, her voice like the soft hum of the ocean. It is time. Mara took a cautious step back, unsure of who this mysterious woman was. But something about her felt familiar. She looked closer. Who are you? Mara asked, her voice barely a whisper. The woman smiled softly. I am Nerina, your aunt. Before Mara could say anything more, Nerina stepped forward, her hand outstretched. The water around her feet swirled and danced, as if obeying her command. Come with me, she urged. There is much you do not know. And there is little time. Mara hesitated. She had heard stories of mermaids, of strange beings who lived beneath the waves. But she had never believed them. And yet, here was this woman, claiming to be her aunt, and something deep within Mara stirred, a sense of belonging, a sense of fate. Why are you here? Mara asked, stepping closer, drawn by an invisible pull. Why now? Nerina's expression darkened, and her voice became grave. The kingdom is in danger, Mara. Your father is King Jaja, the ruler of the human kingdom. And your mother is Queen Calypso, the ruler of the sea. But a curse has bound them, and that curse binds you as well. It was because of their forbidden love that all this happened. You are the key to ending the war between land and sea. But you must choose where your loyalties lie. Mara's heart skipped a beat. Her father, a king. Her mother, a queen of the sea. War. Mara echoed, feeling the weight of her words. What do you mean? Nerina looked out at the ocean, her eyes distant. The kingdom of Merriva is about to face a war unlike any before. The sea creatures are angry, and they seek vengeance for the wrongs done to them. And your father, King Jaja does not even know the full truth of his own blood. He does not know you exist. Mara's mind spun, and her thoughts raced. Her whole life, she had been told she was just a child of the village. But now, she was learning that she was more than just a girl. She was a living connection between two worlds, the human world of Mariva and the mysterious, beautiful kingdom beneath the waves. You are the child of both kingdoms, Mara, Narina continued. But that makes you a target. Queen Selene, the new queen of your father's court, fears you. She believes you are a threat to her son's claim to the throne. She will do anything to keep your existence a secret. But the war is coming, and it will not be stopped by lies and deceit. Mara's breath caught in her throat. But I don't know anything about the sea, about magic. Narina's eyes softened. You are stronger than you think. You have both the powers of the land and the sea within you. It is time to learn what they are. Just as she spoke, the ground beneath them trembled. A deep, guttural roar echoed from the ocean, sending a chill through Mara's spine. Narina's eyes narrowed. The time has come. We must go. The ocean is calling, and you have no choice but to answer. Without another word, Narina turned and dove into the waves, her body sinking into the deep blue. The water parted before her, like a path unfolding in the sea. Mara's heart raced. She couldn't let her aunt face whatever that was alone. With a deep breath, Mara followed, plunging into the water after her. The world above the surface disappeared as Mara sank deeper into the water. Her body was weightless, her hair swirling around her like dark tendrils of seaweed. For a moment, it felt as though she were suspended in a dream, floating between two worlds, one of sunlight and air, and the other of mystery and ancient magic. The deep blue water embraced her, cool and comforting, as if it were welcoming her home. The sounds of the world above grew distant, replaced by the soft, rhythmic pulse of the ocean. It was as though the sea had its own heartbeat, and Mara could feel it echoing through her very bones. Ahead of her, Narina's silver hair gleamed like a beacon in the deep. The mermaid moved effortlessly through the water, her form graceful and fluid. Mara tried to follow, but the current was stronger than she expected. Her legs kicked instinctively, but she was still learning how to move in the water. Narina turned back, her eyes filled with understanding. Don't worry, Mara. You will learn quickly. The ocean listens to those who belong to it. Mara nodded, though her heart was racing. She had never been underwater like this. She had never even thought about the sea beyond its beauty and the way it seemed to call her in her dreams. But now, she was realizing that the ocean was not just a part of the world, it was a living, breathing entity. And it was part of her, too. As they swam deeper, the light above dimmed, replaced by the glowing bioluminescence of underwater plants and creatures. The sea seemed alive in a way Mara had never imagined. Fish of every shape and color darted through the water, their scales shimmering like jewels. Strange creatures with long, flowing fins and glowing eyes glided past, watching them curiously. After what felt like an eternity of swimming, they reached the heart of the ocean, a vast underwater city built within a cavern beneath the waves. The city was unlike anything Mara had ever seen, and yet, it felt familiar, as though she had always known it existed. Great coral towers stretched toward the surface, their spires adorned with sparkling sea gems. The streets were lined with glowing seaweed, and the buildings were crafted from smooth stones that seemed to hum with ancient power. This is Atlantis, Narina said softly, her voice carrying easily through the water. The kingdom of the merfolk. This is where your mother, Queen Calypso, ruled before she fell in love with your father. Mara's eyes widened. Atlantis. She had heard legends of it, stories of a city that had vanished beneath the waves. But she never imagined it could be real. It is beautiful, Mara whispered, gazing at the glowing city around her. Narina smiled, though her eyes were filled with sorrow. Yes, it is. But beauty can be deceiving, Mara. Our world has been ravaged by centuries of conflict with the humans above. Your mother, she was once a queen, but after the curse, she became something else. What curse? Mara asked, her curiosity growing. The curse of forbidden love, Narina explained, her voice heavy with regret. When your mother and father fell in love, their union angered the gods of both the sea and the land. A great curse was placed upon them. Your mother, the Mermaid Queen, was cast away from the surface world, and your father was bound to rule a kingdom that would never know the truth of his love for her. The curse spread to their bloodline, and that is why you are here now, Mara. You are the child of two worlds, and the only one who can lift the curse. Mara's heart raced. But, how do I lift the curse? I don't even know what my powers are. Nerina paused for a moment, then turned to face Mara, her silver eyes shining with determination. You will learn, Mara. Both the magic of the sea and the power of the land flow through you. You must master both if you are to break the curse and stop the war that is coming. Mara nodded, though doubt still lingered in her mind. Could she really be the one to save both kingdoms? The weight of her newfound responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. As they swam through the city, they passed other merfolk, women and men who watched Mara with a mix of curiosity and fear. Some whispered to each other, their voices like the soft swish of waves against the shore. But others seemed to look at her with distrust, as though they sensed something dark within her. Nerina led her to a grand hall, its walls adorned with shimmering sea crystals. At the center of the hall stood a massive stone throne, intricately carved with images of sea creatures and the rising sun. The throne was empty, but Mara could sense the weight of history in the room. This was once her mother's seat, the place where Queen Calypso ruled. Nerina stopped before the throne and turned to face Mara. This is where you will begin your training. The first thing you must understand is that the ocean does not simply give its power to anyone. You must prove yourself worthy. And that will not be easy. Mara swallowed, her throat dry. How do I prove myself worthy? Nerina smiled again, but it was a smile tinged with sadness. You must dive into the depths of the ocean, to the abyss. There, you will face the trials of the sea. Only if you succeed can you begin to understand the magic that flows through your veins. The abyss. The name sent a shiver down Mara's spine. She had heard stories of the abyss, a place where no mermaid dared to venture, a place of darkness and monsters that lurked in the deep. You will not go alone, Nerina added, sensing Mara's fear. I will be with you. But you must be ready. The ocean is a harsh teacher. Mara nodded, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The weight of her heritage was heavy, but she knew that if she didn't face the trials, both the land and sea would be lost to war. And worse, she might never discover the truth of who she was. Let us begin, Nerina said, and with a swift motion, she plunged into the depths of the abyss. Mara followed her, her heart pounding with both fear and excitement. The ocean was calling her, and she had no choice but to answer. The deeper they swam, the darker the water became. The faint, glowing lights from the city of Atlantis were soon lost behind them, replaced by an oppressive blackness that seemed to swallow the light. Mara could feel her heart pounding in her chest, a steady rhythm of fear and anticipation. The ocean's depths were a mystery, full of dangers and ancient secrets, and she had no idea what awaited her in the abyss. Nerina swam ahead, her movements fluid and sure. The deeper they went, the stronger the currents became, pushing against Mara, urging her to turn back. But Nerina's gaze never wavered, and Mara knew there was no turning back now. She had already crossed the point of no return. The abyss is not just a place, Mara, Nerina called over her shoulder. Her voice, though soft, carried through the water. It is a trial. The sea will test you, your courage, your strength, and your spirit. You must face what lies hidden inside you. Only then can you truly understand your power. Mara nodded, though her stomach twisted with nervousness. She didn't know what to expect, but she knew she couldn't back down now. The future of both the human and merfolk kingdoms depended on her. As they swam deeper, the pressure around them grew heavier. The water felt colder, almost freezing, and the silence was suffocating. It felt as though the ocean itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. And then, without warning, the ground beneath Mara's feet gave way. She was falling, spiraling down into the darkness. Her body twisted in the water, and her heart raced as panic surged within her. But before she could even think to scream, a powerful hand grabbed her wrist, pulling her upward. Nerina's silver eyes glowed in the darkness. Do not fear, Mara. The abyss is alive. It will test you in ways you cannot imagine. But you must remain calm. Trust in yourself. Mara nodded, forcing her racing heart to slow. She could feel the weight of the ocean pressing against her, and it was overwhelming. But Nerina was right. She had to trust herself. As they continued to descend, the water around them began to shift. Shapes appeared in the dark, strange, shadowy figures that moved with a silent grace. At first, they seemed like illusions, but as they came closer, Mara realized they were real. Large, glowing jellyfish floated past them, their bodies pulsating with an eerie light. Their long, trailing tentacles brushed against Mara's skin, sending a shiver through her. But instead of pain, she felt a strange connection. As though the jellyfish were welcoming her, guiding her. What are they? Mara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Guardians of the abyss, Nerina replied. They test the souls of those who enter. They do not harm unless you show fear. If you are calm, they will help you. Mara took a deep breath, calming herself. She reached out a hand to touch one of the glowing jellyfish, and to her surprise, it didn't sting. Instead, it pulsed gently under her touch, its soft glow wrapping around her fingers like a warm embrace. The creatures circled her, their bioluminescent bodies lighting up the water like stars in the night sky. But the calm didn't last. A loud, booming sound echoed through the water, shaking the very foundation of the ocean. Mara froze, her heart skipping a beat. Nerina's expression darkened, and she looked around nervously. The first trial has begun, Nerina said, her voice tense. The water around them began to swirl, the peaceful currents shifting into violent whirlpools. The jellyfish scattered, fleeing into the darkness. Mara's pulse quickened as the water began to churn, pulling her in all directions. She struggled to stay afloat, but the current was too strong. It was as if the very ocean was fighting against her. Mara! Nerina shouted, reaching out for her. But the whirlpool was too powerful. The water twisted and tugged at Mara, dragging her deeper into the abyss. The world spun around her, and for a moment, she thought she would be lost forever. But then, something inside her stirred, a deep, ancient power that she didn't understand. It was as if the ocean itself had recognized her, and in that moment, she realized that she was not a stranger to these waters. She was a part of them. With a deep breath, Mara closed her eyes and let go of her fear. She let the water take her, feeling the current around her as though it were an extension of her own body. She opened her arms wide and let the energy of the sea flow through her. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the whirlpool stopped. The water stilled, and the pressure around her lifted. The abyss had tested her, and she had passed. The ocean had acknowledged her power. Nerina swam to her side, a look of approval in her eyes. Well done, Mara. The first trial is complete. You have proven that you can trust the ocean. Mara gasped for breath, her body trembling from the intensity of the trial. But beneath the exhaustion, there was a sense of accomplishment. She had faced the ocean's fury and emerged victorious. But this is only the beginning, Nerina warned. There are more trials to come. The ocean will test not just your strength, but your heart. Are you ready for what lies ahead? Mara nodded, her determination renewed. She had no choice but to continue. The war between the land and the sea was looming, and she was the only one who could stop it. But to do so, she would need to master the powers of both worlds. And the ocean had just given her a glimpse of what was to come. The stillness of the abyss was short-lived. As soon as the whirlpool had dissipated, the water around Mara seemed to shift once more, as if something beneath the surface were stirring. Her pulse still raced from the first trial, but now a new sensation began to rise within her, a feeling that something ancient and powerful was watching her. Nerina did not speak immediately. She swam beside Mara, her silvery tail cutting through the water with ease, though her gaze was sharp and focused, constantly scanning the dark depths around them. The creatures of the abyss had retreated, leaving them in an eerie silence. It's not over yet, Nerina said at last, her voice soft but urgent. You've shown courage, but the trials will only grow harder from here. Mara's chest tightened. She had no idea what could be harder than the whirlpool. But Narina's eyes, filled with a deep wisdom, told her that the sea had much more in store for her. As they swam deeper into the abyss, the water seemed to darken further. It wasn't just the absence of light, it was as if the very fabric of the ocean had absorbed it all. No glow from the jellyfish remained. No distant bioluminescence. Just an infinite void. "Why is it so dark?" Mara asked, her voice barely audible. "This is the heart of the abyss," Narina replied, her tone grave. "This is where the true test begins." Before Mara could respond, she felt it, a pressure, heavy and cold, wrapping itself around her like a cloak. Her heart skipped a beat as the sensation intensified. Something was moving, something enormous. "Stay close," Narina warned, her voice a whisper now. The heart of the abyss is a place of darkness, but it is also a place of temptation. What lies here can make you question everything, yourself, your power, and your loyalty. Mara felt the weight of Narina's words. The water around her seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeats, the deep sea growing even colder as they ventured farther into the dark expanse. Then, in the distance, something moved. At first, it was a faint ripple in the water, barely noticeable. But as it grew closer, the shape began to take form. A massive, shadowy figure emerged from the dark, a creature the size of a mountain, its body covered in scales that shimmered like obsidian. It was a serpent, its eyes glowing a deep, unsettling red. Mara froze, her breath caught in her throat. The serpent's gaze was fixed on her, and it seemed to see right through her, as though it knew her deepest thoughts and fears. "The serpent is the guardian of this place," Narina said, her voice tense. "It is called Seraphis. He was once a creature of the ocean, bound to protect the heart. Now, he is the test of your heart, your intentions." Mara swallowed hard. Seraphis was unlike any creature she had ever seen. His enormous form coiled through the water with ease, his scales reflecting the faintest glimmers of light. His red eyes never left Mara, and she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The serpent's presence alone seemed to press against her very soul. "You must face him," Narina continued. "But not with violence. Seraphis will test your heart. You must prove that you are not consumed by fear, hatred, or revenge." Mara nodded, but doubt lingered in her chest. How could she face this creature? How could she prove her worth without fighting? Seraphis slowly circled them, his massive body twisting through the water with terrifying grace. His voice, when it came, was like a rumble of thunder, vibrating through the water. "Child of two worlds," he intoned, his voice deep and ancient. "What is it that you seek in the depths? What do you wish to prove?" Mara opened her mouth to respond, but her voice caught in her throat. What was it that she truly sought? She had come here to break the curse, to stop the war, but was that all she desired? She thought of her father, King Jaja, who had never known of her existence. She thought of her mother, Queen Calypso, the mermaid queen who had been cast aside for her forbidden love. She thought of the hatred between humans and merfolk, a hatred that had shaped both kingdoms for centuries. "I seek peace," Mara said at last, her voice steady. "I seek to end the conflict, to stop the war. I want to heal both worlds." The serpent's red eyes gleamed brighter, as though it were considering her words. For a long moment, Seraphis did not speak, only circled them slowly, his massive form filling the water with his presence. "You speak of peace," the serpent finally said. "But peace is a fragile thing. It requires trust, and trust is easily broken. You cannot undo the wounds of your people overnight. You must first understand the heart of those you wish to heal." The serpent's massive head moved closer to Mara, and she could feel the weight of his gaze. What is the heart of a human? What is the heart of a mermaid? What makes them so different from one another? Mara thought carefully, the serpent's words sinking deep into her mind. She had always known that humans and merfolk were different, but was that all they were? Differences? Or were they more alike than she had been led to believe? "The heart of a human is filled with dreams, fears, and desires," Mara said slowly. "The heart of a mermaid is much the same. We all wish for love, for family, for belonging. but we are separated by fear, by old wounds that refuse to heal. Seraphus's glowing eyes flickered with something like approval. You understand, he said softly. But can you forgive those who have wronged you? Can you heal the hearts that have been broken? Mara felt a tightness in her chest. The question was more difficult than she had anticipated. Could she forgive those who had caused so much pain? Her mother, cast aside for her love of a human. Her father, unaware of her existence. The humans who had driven her mother into hiding. And the merfolk who had cast her away, seeing her as a symbol of the cursed union between land and sea. She thought of her father's face, strong and kind, but so distant. And then she thought of Nerina, her aunt, who had protected her when no one else would. She thought of the people who had loved her, and the people who had feared her. Finally, Mara nodded. I will try. I will not let the past control me. Seraphis watched her closely, his red eyes burning with intensity. For a long moment, there was silence, broken only by the sound of the ocean's deep pulse. Then, the serpent moved back, allowing Mara to breathe freely once more. You have passed this trial, he said, his voice deep and final. But the path ahead will not be easy. Your heart must remain steadfast, and your will unbroken. Only then will you be ready to face the greatest challenge of all. With that, the serpent vanished into the depths, his form disappearing into the blackness. The water around Mara and Nerina began to brighten once more, the oppressive darkness lifting as if the sea itself had granted them passage. Nerina swam closer, her eyes filled with approval. You've done it, Mara. You've passed the second trial. But there is still more to come. The ocean is not finished with you yet. Mara nodded, her heart filled with a mix of triumph and uncertainty. She had faced the serpent, and for the first time, she felt the weight of her destiny more clearly than ever before. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was sure, she would never give up. The soft currents of the abyss were gentle now, their strength no longer threatening. The oppressive darkness had lifted, and the water felt lighter, almost welcoming. Mara's heart, however, was heavier than ever before. Though she had passed the second trial, her mind was filled with questions about her heritage, her purpose, and the dangerous path ahead. Nerina swam alongside her, her silvery tail catching the faint light that filtered down from the surface. The ocean, though vast and mysterious, felt strangely comforting now. It was as though the waters themselves had accepted Mara, offering her solace after the trials. But Mara knew this peace was temporary. She had a long way to go before she could confront the curse, end the war, and claim her rightful place as the heir to both the human and merfolk kingdoms. You've done well, Mara, Nerina said quietly, her voice carrying a sense of pride. But the path ahead will not be as kind. Mara glanced at her aunt, the lines of worry etched deep in her eyes. What do you mean? The serpent, he said, I still have more trials to face. But I don't understand. What are they? What's the next step? Nerina hesitated, her gaze drifting down to the deep blue waters below. The trials are not just about your strength or your heart. They are about understanding both sides of your heritage, the human side and the merfolk side. Only by embracing both will you be able to break the curse that binds your family and your people. Mara furrowed her brow. But how can I do that? The humans and the merfolk, they hate each other. The war between them has been going on for centuries. How can I heal that rift? How can I even understand both worlds? Nerina swam slowly, as though weighing her words carefully. The truth is, Mara, you are both a part of this world and yet apart from it. You have the heart of a human and the spirit of a mermaid. But neither side has fully accepted you. The humans see you as a witch, a child of the sea. And the merfolk, they see you as a reminder of their betrayal. You must find a way to bridge these two worlds, even if they seem irreconcilable. Mara's thoughts swirled as Nerina's words sank in. How could she be the key to ending the centuries-old conflict? How could she unite two sides so divided by fear and hatred? Your father, King Jaja, he is the key to the human kingdom, Nerina continued. And your mother, Queen Calypso, holds the power of the sea. But both are lost to you now, trapped in their own worlds, unable to see what you could bring together. Mara's heart tightened at the mention of her parents. She had never known her father, only the stories her mother had told her of a forbidden love that had torn their lives apart. And her mother, the Mermaid Queen, had been forced into hiding, alone, for so many years. Mara had never truly understood the depth of their pain, nor the weight of the love they had shared. Then what must I do? Mara asked, her voice filled with determination. How can I unite them? How can I break the curse? Nerina's eyes softened. The third trial will bring you closer to the truth. It will test not your strength, but your understanding. You must journey into the heart of both the human world and the merfolk world. Only then will you be ready to break the curse that binds your family and your people. Before Mara could respond, a sudden ripple in the water made both her and Nerina freeze. The current shifted, growing stronger, pulling them toward a distant, unfamiliar place. Nerina's eyes widened in alarm. No, Nerina whispered, her voice tight with fear. It cannot be. This is not supposed to happen yet. Mara's heart raced as the current pulled her faster, dragging her through the water toward a dark, jagged cliff that rose from the ocean floor. There, nestled within the rocks, was a cave, dark and foreboding. As they drew closer, Mara could see the faint glow of torches flickering inside. What is this place? Mara asked, her voice shaky. This is the Cave of Betrayal, Nerina replied, her voice strained. It is where the ancient powers of both realms meet. And it is where your fate will be decided. Without another word, Nerina propelled herself toward the cave, urging Mara to follow. The closer they got, the heavier the air became, as though something immense and dangerous awaited them inside. As they entered the cave, the flickering torchlight illuminated the walls, revealing strange symbols carved into the stone. The air was thick with the scent of salt water and something else, something ancient, like the weight of time itself. The deeper they ventured, the colder it became. At the heart of the cave, they came upon a pool of water. It shimmered with an eerie, unnatural glow, the surface rippling as if something were stirring beneath it. This is the Pool of the Forgotten, Nerina said, her voice low. It holds the memories of those who have betrayed the ocean. And it holds the key to your future. Mara felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She had heard of this pool, of its power to reveal the past and the future, but she had never thought she would have to face it herself. The Pool of the Forgotten was not a place for the faint of heart. It forced those who gazed into it to confront the truth, no matter how painful. What do I need to do? Mara asked, her voice trembling. You must look into the pool, Mara, Nerina said softly. It will show you the betrayal that started this war, the love that was lost, and the curse that was born from it. Only by understanding this truth can you break the chains that bind you. Mara took a deep breath and stepped closer to the pool. The water in the center of the cave was still, but it pulsed with an otherworldly energy. As her reflection appeared on the surface, it began to shift, showing her visions of the past, of her mother and father, their love, their separation, and the curse that had torn them apart. She saw the moment her parents had met, a forbidden love between the Mermaid Queen and the Human King. It had been a union full of passion and defiance, but also one that had sparked fury in both the human and merfolk kingdoms. Their love was seen as a betrayal, an insult to the rules that governed both worlds. And from that love, the curse had been born, a curse that doomed both kingdoms to endless conflict. Mara felt her heart break as she saw her mother, Calypso, alone and broken, forced to hide from the world she had once known. She saw her father, King Jaja, torn between his duty to his people and his love for the woman he had lost. The curse was not just a punishment, it was a chain that bound both kingdoms, a chain that could only be broken by someone who understood the love that had created it. As the visions faded, Mara stepped back from the pool, her mind reeling. She now understood what had to be done. The curse could only be broken by uniting her parents, by healing the wounds of the past. But to do so, she would need to face the truth of her own existence, and the deep divisions between the humans and merfolk. Nerina watched her closely, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and hope. The truth is heavy, Mara. But now you must make a choice. Will you accept your destiny and face the trials ahead? Or will you let the past continue to control you? Mara's heart burned with resolve. She had seen the truth, and now she had to act. The war could end. The curse could be broken. But it would require everything she had, and more. "I will do whatever it takes," Mara said, her voice steady. "I will unite both worlds and break the curse." Nerina smiled, though her eyes were filled with a deep, knowing sadness. "Then you are ready. The next trial will come soon, Mara. And it will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine." The weight of the revelations in the cave of betrayal hung heavily on Mara's shoulders. She had seen the truth of her parents' love, the curse that bound them, and the rift between the human and merfolk kingdoms. The path ahead was clearer now, but it was no less daunting. The curse, the war, and the broken pieces of her parents' love lay heavy in her heart. Nerina led Mara out of the cave, the soft glow of the torches flickering behind them as they swam back toward the open waters of the abyss. But as they moved deeper into the sea, the water began to feel different. The currents were stronger, the pressure heavier, as though the ocean itself was preparing for something. Mara could sense that the next trial was near. "Nerina, I don't know if I can do this," Mara said quietly, her voice filled with uncertainty. "The burden of it all is too much. I've seen the pain in both worlds. I don't know if I'm strong enough to face what comes next." Nerina's silvery tail glided through the water, her expression serene yet firm. "You are stronger than you think, Mara. This trial will not be fought with weapons or sorcery. It is a trial of the heart." Mara's heart skipped a beat. "A trial of the heart? What does that mean?" Nerina turned to face her, her eyes filled with quiet understanding. "You must confront your own fears, Mara. The fear of who you are, of what you must become. The fear that you are not enough to heal the rift between the two worlds. The fear that you will lose those you love in the process." Mara's breath caught in her throat. The words struck deep within her, echoing the fears she had carried since the moment she learned the truth about her parents. What if she failed? What if she couldn't unite the humans and merfolk? What if she lost Nerina, or worse, her father, King Jaja? "I'm afraid," Mara whispered, her voice shaking. "I'm afraid of failing them all." Nerina's eyes softened. "It's natural to be afraid, Mara. But courage isn't the absence of fear, it's facing that fear and choosing to move forward anyway. You must confront the doubts in your heart and decide if you will fight for what's right, even when the odds seem impossible." Mara nodded, though a deep unease still gripped her. They swam in silence for a long while, the water growing darker as they approached a vast, hidden grotto, a place so deep that even the faintest light barely touched its waters. This was the place of the next trial. As they entered the grotto, Mara felt a strange sensation, a pull in her chest, as if something inside her was waking up. She glanced around, the shadows of the cavern stretching far beyond what her eyes could see. The air was thick with magic, ancient and powerful, and the sense of something watching her made her skin prickle. "This is the trial of the heart," Nerina said softly. "The trial that will test whether you can truly embrace both sides of your heritage. You must face your fears, Mara. Your doubts. Your heartache." Mara's pulse quickened. The grotto was silent, save for the gentle lapping of the water against the stone. Then, without warning, the water before her began to swirl. A shape emerged from the depths, dark, formless at first, but slowly taking shape. A figure rose from the water, an ethereal vision of a woman with long, flowing hair that seemed to shimmer like the surface of the ocean. Her eyes glowed with a pale, ghostly light, and her form seemed to flicker in and out of existence. "Mara," the figure whispered, her voice a haunting melody that seemed to echo in the very air around them. "Do you know who I am?" Mara's heart pounded in her chest. The woman before her looked so familiar, yet so strange. It was as if she had seen her in a dream, or in the depths of her soul. "Who are you?" Mara asked, her voice trembling. "I am the fear that lies within you," the woman said. "I am the doubt that clouds your heart. I am the voice that tells you that you are not enough, that you will fail, that you will never live up to your parents' legacy." Mara took a step back, her breath catching in her throat. This was a manifestation of her inner fear, her deepest doubts, given form. "You are the daughter of King Jaja and Queen Calypso," the figure continued, her voice like the whisper of the ocean's winds. But do you truly understand what that means? Do you know the price of your birth? The weight of your parents' love? The curse that has followed you since the moment of your conception? Mara's mind reeled. She had always known that her birth was a product of forbidden love, but she had never fully understood the depth of that truth. Now, standing before this manifestation of her fear, she realized that the price of her existence was more than just the rift between two kingdoms. It was the pain of her parents' choices, the betrayal that had shaped her life. "I don't want to be the cause of more pain," Mara whispered, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. "I don't want to hurt anyone." The figure stepped closer, her form flickering with dark energy. "But you already have, Mara. Your existence is a threat to both worlds. The humans will never accept you, and the merfolk will never forgive you. You are an heir to two thrones, but neither kingdom will ever truly embrace you." Mara felt a wave of despair wash over her. It was true, no matter what she did, she could never truly belong in either world. She was an outsider, caught between two worlds that hated each other. The weight of that truth threatened to crush her. "I don't want this curse," Mara said, her voice breaking. "I don't want to be a part of this war. I just want peace. I want to end the suffering." The figure of fear before her smiled, but it was not a kind smile, it was cruel, mocking. "Then prove it, Mara. Show me that you are more than just a product of your parents' mistakes. Show me that you have the strength to rise above the curse and claim your destiny. If you truly want peace, you must first conquer your own heart." Mara's heart thundered in her chest. The voice of fear, of doubt, of despair, this was the greatest challenge of all. It was not the war between the kingdoms or the curse that held her back. It was the fear within herself. The fear that she wasn't enough. The fear that no matter what she did, she would always be an outsider. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She had come this far. She had already faced the dangers of the abyss. She had seen the pain of her parents' love and the depths of the curse. And now, she had to face herself. "I am more than my parents' mistakes," Mara said firmly, her voice steady. "I am more than the curse. I will find a way to heal both worlds, to break the chains that bind us. I will not let fear decide my fate." The figure flickered, its form beginning to fade. "Then you are ready, Mara. You have faced your heart, and you have chosen the path of courage." With those final words, the figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving Mara alone in the dark grotto. For the first time, Mara felt a sense of peace settle within her. She had confronted her deepest fear and emerged stronger for it. Nerina appeared beside her, her expression one of quiet approval. "You have passed the trial of the heart," she said softly. "You have faced your doubts and your fears, and you have chosen the path of courage. The next trial awaits, Mara. But for now, you have proven yourself ready." Mara nodded, her heart swelling with newfound strength. She had faced her own darkness and emerged victorious. But she knew that the hardest part of her journey was still ahead. The war between the humans and the merfolk still raged, and the curse still bound her parents to their separate worlds. But Mara was no longer afraid. She had chosen her path, and she would walk it, no matter the cost. Mara's heart was still pounding as she swam alongside Nerina, the trial of her heart now behind her. She had passed, but there was no time for rest. The path ahead was fraught with danger, and she could sense that another challenge awaited. The water around them felt colder now, the currents heavier, as if the ocean itself was preparing for the coming storm. "Where do we go now?" Mara asked, her voice still filled with the lingering echoes of the trial. Nerina's eyes narrowed as she scanned the waters around them. "There is no more running, Mara. The time for hiding is over. You have already proven that you are strong enough to face the truth of who you are. Now, you must go to the heart of the matter." "The heart of what matter?" Mara asked, confusion and worry clouding her mind. "The war," Nerina replied, her voice steady but tinged with sorrow. "It's the only way to stop the curse and save both kingdoms. You must confront the leaders of the merfolk and the humans. Only then can the balance be restored." Mara shuddered. The thought of facing both her father, King Jaja, and the leaders of the merfolk filled her with dread. She was just one girl, caught between two worlds, neither of which would truly accept her. But she had no choice. The fate of both kingdoms rested in her hands. As they swam deeper into the ocean, the waters began to shift, becoming murkier, darker. They entered a region of the sea that Mara had never seen before, an area where the currents seemed to pulse with dark energy. The seaweed here was thick, twisted, and black, and the creatures that darted in and out of the shadows seemed to avoid them. "This is the Forbidden Zone," Narina said softly. "The place where no merfolk dare to go. It is where the ancient powers of the ocean are strongest, where the gods of the deep reside." Mara felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise. The Forbidden Zone was a place of legends, a place of immense power, but also immense danger. No one went there willingly. "Why are we here?" Mara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to speak with the Oracle," Narina replied. "She is the only one who knows how to break the curse and stop the war. But the Oracle is not easily found. She only reveals herself to those who are worthy." Mara's heart sank. Another trial. Another test. As they ventured deeper into the Forbidden Zone, the water grew colder, and a strange sense of foreboding filled the air. It was as though the very ocean was watching them, waiting for something to happen. Then, without warning, a shadow darted past them, quick, silent, and deadly. What was that? Mara gasped, her instincts on high alert. Before Narina could respond, a dark figure lunged at them from the shadows. It was a merfolk, tall, with skin as dark as the deep ocean, and eyes glowing with an unnatural light. His movements were swift, and he held a dagger made of sharp coral in his hand. "Who dares to enter the Forbidden Zone?" the merfolk growled, his voice low and menacing. "This is not a place for outsiders." Narina's eyes flashed with recognition. "Azenga," she hissed, her voice filled with disdain. "What are you doing here?" Azenga smirked, his sharp teeth glinting in the dim light. "I've been waiting for you, Narina. I see you've brought your little princess along. You think you can just waltz in here and speak to the Oracle, do you?" Mara's stomach churned. "What do you want?" Azenga's smirk widened. "What do I want? I want the same thing as everyone else, power. The Oracle will tell you nothing, girl. You're nothing but a pawn in a game far greater than you can understand. Your father's throne. Your mother's kingdom. They're all mine for the taking." Narina's face twisted with anger. "Azenga, you traitor. You would betray your own people for power." Azenga laughed darkly, his eyes glowing with a twisted, dangerous gleam. "The merfolk are weak, Narina. They're stuck in their old ways, bound by rules that no longer serve them. The humans, on the other hand, have power. I've made alliances with them. Together, we will conquer both the merfolk and the humans. And I will be the one to rule it all." Mara's blood ran cold. This was a betrayal unlike any she had imagined. Azenga, one of Narina's own people, had turned against them, and he was working with the humans to achieve his own dark ambitions. "You'll never succeed," Narina said, her voice steely. "The curse will never be broken with bloodshed." Azenga's smile faded, replaced with a cold, calculating look. "The curse is not the only thing at stake, Narina. The throne is. And Mara," he turned his gaze to the girl. "You are the key to everything. If I kill you, the war ends before it begins." Before Mara could react, Azenga lunged at her, his dagger raised high. But Narina was faster. She thrust her tail forward, creating a surge of water that knocked Azenga back. He snarled in fury, but before he could regain his footing, a ripple in the water caught his attention. "Enough," a voice said, low and commanding. The water parted, and from the shadows emerged a figure, a tall, regal mermaid with skin that glowed like the moonlit sea. Her eyes were deep and ancient, filled with the wisdom of countless ages. The Oracle. Azenga stepped back, his face twisted with disbelief and anger. "You," he snarled. "You would side with them?" The Oracle regarded him coldly, her expression unchanged. "Your ambition blinds you, Azenga. You seek power, but power alone cannot break the curse. You are a fool. Mara's heart raced. This was the oracle, the one they had come to seek. But as she looked at Azenga, she realized that this wasn't the first time he had been this close to her. The betrayal ran deeper than she had first thought. The oracle turned to Mara, her gaze softening. Mara, child of both worlds, you have come far. But the journey ahead will not be easy. The curse can only be lifted by uniting the hearts of both kingdoms, but to do so, you must make a choice. A choice? Mara asked, confusion swirling in her mind. The choice between loyalty to your father and your mother, the oracle said softly. One kingdom must fall for the other to rise. Choose wisely, for the fate of both worlds rests in your hands. Mara's mind reeled. The weight of the oracle's words pressed down on her like a heavy stone. She had already made so many choices, each one leading her closer to a future she couldn't fully comprehend. And now, the oracle was asking her to choose between her two worlds, between the human kingdom she had been born to and the merfolk kingdom she had come to love. But as Azenga's figure receded into the darkness, Mara realized something else. The choice was not just about kingdoms. It was about the future, her future. And whatever decision she made, it would change everything. Mara stood in the shadows of the oracle's presence, the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest like an anchor. The ocean around her felt heavy, as if the waters themselves were holding their breath. Her mind raced with the oracle's words, each one echoing louder than the last. One kingdom must fall for the other to rise. Choose wisely, for the fate of both worlds rests in your hands. She could hear the soft whispers of the ocean currents as they swirled around her. The calm and clarity that had filled her after the trial of the heart had now dissipated, replaced by confusion and fear. The thought of choosing between her father's kingdom and her mother's realm felt impossible. Both sides had their pain, their reasons for conflict, their claims to power. Her heart ached as she thought of King Jaja, her father, the man who had never known her until now. She could see his face, kind, yet burdened by the responsibilities of leadership. He had always protected his kingdom, even if it meant sacrificing his own happiness. And then, there was Calypso, her mother, a queen of the ocean, fierce and proud, but also someone who had borne the weight of a forbidden love that had cursed them all. What would choosing one kingdom mean for the other? Could she truly save them both? Or would her decision be the final blow to a legacy of pain and betrayal? I can't do this, Mara whispered to herself, her voice trembling with the enormity of the choice before her. How can I choose? Narina, standing beside her, placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. The touch was warm, grounding. Mara, you do not have to make this decision alone. You are not the only one with something to lose. Both kingdoms have their burdens, their sacrifices. But what you need to understand is that this war, this curse, it was never meant to be fought in hatred. It was meant to be healed. Mara's eyes flicked to Narina, searching for some hint of an answer, some light to guide her through the darkness of uncertainty. How? How can I heal what is broken? Narina met her gaze, her eyes filled with a knowing that seemed to stretch beyond her years. You already have the power to heal, Mara. The sorcery of both realms flows through your veins. You are the key. But the magic of the sea and the magic of the land cannot coexist in harmony without sacrifice. Mara's heart skipped a beat. Sacrifice? What do you mean? Narina's voice softened. The ocean is bound to the land, but the two cannot coexist in peace without balance. The human kingdom and the merfolk kingdom have been at odds for centuries, and the curse that binds your parents was the catalyst that started it all. To lift the curse, to heal the divide, one side must surrender. One kingdom must fall for the other to rise. Mara's breath caught in her throat. Are you saying that I have to choose between my father and my mother? That one of them must lose everything? Narina nodded slowly. It is the only way to break the curse. To bring peace, one kingdom must lay down its claim. If you choose to save the merfolk, the human kingdom will fall. If you choose the humans, the merfolk will lose everything. There is no way to save both without immense sacrifice. Mara's mind spun. The weight of the decision was suffocating, and every thought seemed to twist into another, leading her in different directions. Could she really condemn one side to destruction? Would her choice end up creating even more pain, more chaos? Before she could voice her fears, the oracle spoke again, her voice as steady and calm as the ocean itself. "Do not be fooled, child," the oracle said, her eyes glowing with ancient wisdom. "This is not simply a matter of choosing one over the other. The path you take will set the stage for a future that none of us can predict. It is the price of peace. Balance will require both kingdoms to give up something precious. But what you must decide, Mara, is not what you are willing to lose. It is what you are willing to sacrifice." The oracle's words hung in the air, echoing around them. The silence that followed was deafening. Mara's heart pounded, her mind racing to process the enormity of what the oracle was saying. She could feel the weight of both worlds on her shoulders, each one pulling her in opposite directions. Suddenly, a voice pierced the stillness. "You are not alone in this decision, Mara." Mara turned sharply, her eyes widening as she saw a figure stepping out from the shadows. It was Azenga, the merfolk trader who had tried to kill her before. But now, his expression was different. His usual smugness was gone, replaced with something darker, more desperate. "I've come to offer you a choice," Azenga said, his voice low and measured. "You do not have to choose between your parents. You do not have to destroy one kingdom to save the other. I can help you break the curse without the war. Together, we can rule both kingdoms." Mara's eyes narrowed in suspicion. "Why should I trust you, Azenga? You tried to kill me." Azenga's lips curled into a twisted smile. "Because I can give you the power to save both kingdoms. I have made alliances with the humans, and I know their weaknesses. I can guide you through the maze of politics and betrayal. With my help, you can control both the sea and the land." Mara recoiled at his offer. The temptation of power was clear, but the price was steep. Azenga was dangerous, his thirst for control had already cost the lives of many, and she had no doubt that he would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. He was offering her a way out of the impossible choice, but Mara knew that power gained through manipulation and betrayal would only lead to more suffering. "No," Mara said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. "I will not take the easy way out. I will not let power be the answer. I will find another way." Azenga's smile faltered, but his gaze remained sharp. "You think you have the strength to do this alone, but you don't. You will see, Mara. You will see that in the end, no one can truly escape the price of peace." With that, Azenga disappeared into the shadows, leaving Mara with nothing but his words ringing in her ears. His offer had been tempting: power, control, and the promise of peace without sacrifice. But deep down, Mara knew that true peace couldn't be achieved through deceit and betrayal. The oracle's words echoed again in her mind: "What you must decide is not what you are willing to lose. It is what you are willing to sacrifice." Mara closed her eyes, trying to calm the storm inside her. She had to make a decision. One kingdom would have to fall, and it was up to her to decide which one. The weight of the choice was unbearable, but she knew that the answer wasn't just about kingdoms, it was about what kind of future she wanted to create. It was about love. It was about loyalty. And it was about sacrifice. The ocean was eerily silent as Mara swam alongside Narina, the weight of the oracle's words still heavy on her heart. She felt like a ship lost at sea, tossed between two raging storms, uncertain of which direction to take. Every wave that lapped against her skin seemed to whisper warnings, urging her to make a choice, yet no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't see the way forward clearly. The night had fallen over the sea, and the dark waters were lit only by the faint glow of bioluminescent fish. Mara found herself longing for the warmth of the sun, for a moment of clarity in the midst of the chaos that threatened to engulf her. As they swam in silence, the weight of the choice ahead gnawed at Mara's soul. She had to choose, and yet she could not bear the thought of choosing one kingdom over the other. How could she betray either side? How could she let down both her parents, who had already sacrificed so much? Narina's voice broke through the stillness, soft but urgent. "We must go to the surface." Mara turned to her aunt, confused. "The surface? Why?" Nerina's expression darkened, her eyes clouded with something Mara couldn't quite decipher. There is someone who can help us, a trusted ally of your mother. Someone who knows the way to break the curse without destruction. But we cannot stay hidden any longer. We must go where the humans tread. The thought of facing the humans, of being seen by the very people who had condemned her, sent a chill through Mara. Her mind flashed back to the day she had been cast into the ocean, how they had called her a witch, how they had sentenced her to death without question, simply because she was different. She had no desire to face them again. But Nerina's words were compelling. If there was a way to break the curse without the war, without the need for sacrifice, then Mara had no choice but to take it. But could she trust this ally? Was there truly a way out of the madness without destroying one side? As they neared the surface, Mara could feel the tension building in the air. The world above the waves was a different one entirely. The water grew lighter as they neared the edge, and the sound of distant waves crashing against the shore reached her ears. The world above seemed to be waiting, holding its breath, just as the ocean had. Nerina signaled for Mara to rise. Slowly, cautiously, Mara broke the surface of the water, her head emerging into the cool night air. She blinked against the light, momentarily disoriented. The night sky stretched above them, dotted with stars, the moon casting a silver glow on the water below. They were near a secluded cove, far from the eyes of the village. The scent of salt and earth mixed in the air, and the sound of the waves was comforting, almost like a lullaby. A figure stepped out from the shadows, tall and slender, with a flowing cloak that shimmered under the moonlight. Her skin was dark, like polished mahogany, and her eyes gleamed with an intensity that seemed to pierce through the night. "Callista," Nerina greeted, her voice tinged with both respect and wariness. "We need your help." Callista nodded, her gaze fixed on Mara. "I know why you've come," she said, her voice smooth and soft, yet carrying an edge of authority. "The curse must be broken. But it cannot be done with force or power alone. It requires wisdom, and it requires sacrifice." Mara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "Is there another way? A way to save both kingdoms?" Callista's eyes softened slightly, but there was a sadness in them that Mara couldn't ignore. "I wish I could tell you that there is. But the path you are on is fraught with danger. The curse that binds your parents was never meant to be broken easily. It was a punishment, a consequence of their forbidden love." Nerina stepped closer. "We cannot let the war continue. You know the danger it poses to both kingdoms." Callista's gaze shifted to the water, her expression contemplative. "The war is inevitable. It has already begun, even if the full battle has not yet been fought. The humans are preparing to strike against the merfolk, and the merfolk are preparing to retaliate. There is no turning back now." Mara felt the cold grip of fear tighten around her heart. "But the curse, it can be lifted, can't it?" Callista turned her gaze back to Mara. "Yes, it can. But the price will be high. Both realms must give something precious in return for the curse to be undone. You must choose who will sacrifice what they hold most dear." Mara's mind reeled. This was the choice she had feared, the one that could destroy everything. What could either kingdom possibly give up? And how could she choose which kingdom would make that sacrifice? "You said wisdom and sacrifice," Mara whispered, her voice trembling. "What does that mean?" Callista took a deep breath. "The curse cannot be undone with simple magic. It is bound to the love that your parents once shared, a love that was both their strength and their downfall. But there is a way to sever that bond without destroying everything. One side must let go of their claim to power, while the other must give up their pride. Only then will the curse be lifted." Mara's heart twisted with pain. The thought of either side surrendering their pride or their power felt impossible. The merfolk would never give up their claim to the sea, and the humans would never relinquish their throne. Both kingdoms were built on pride, on the belief that they deserved what they had. "But I don't understand," Mara said, her voice breaking. "How can we choose? How can we make them give up what is so important to them?" Callista's eyes softened, and for a moment, Mara saw the weight of the world in them. "The choice is not yours alone to make, Mara. It is the heart of both kingdoms that must decide. The love between your parents started the curse, but the healing must come from both sides. Mara felt a chill run down her spine. The healing had to come from both sides, but what if neither side was willing to sacrifice what they held dear? What if the curse could never be broken because the kingdoms could not, or would not, let go of their pride? The thought of the war escalating, of the destruction it would bring to both kingdoms, filled her with a deep sense of despair. She could not stop it alone. But perhaps, if she could find a way to unite the two kingdoms, to bring them together in a way that no one had ever dared before, she might be able to save them all. But as she looked at Callista, the weight of the decision seemed more daunting than ever. She wasn't just deciding the fate of the merfolk or the humans. She was deciding the fate of her parents, of the love that had created her, and of the future she had yet to choose. And that decision would come at a price. The night was darker than usual, the moon hidden behind thick clouds that seemed to press in from all directions. Mara sat at the edge of the secluded cove, staring out into the vast ocean, her mind tangled in a web of conflicting thoughts. The waves lapped against the shore like quiet whispers, urging her to find a way forward, but no answer seemed to come. The weight of the curse hung heavily on her shoulders, and the more she thought about Callista's words, the more she realized the impossible nature of her task. To break the curse, to stop the war, it would take more than just magic. It would take the hearts of both kingdoms, the very essence of their pride and power, to be laid bare. And what if they refused? What if neither side could give up what they had fought so long to protect? Her mind drifted to her mother, Calypso, the mermaid queen who had once loved the human king, her father. And to King Jaja, the ruler of the human kingdom, whose love for Calypso had bound their fates together in a way that neither of them had ever anticipated. Their love had brought forth a child, Mara, but it had also led to the curse that had been placed upon them all. Now, Mara was the bridge between two worlds, two legacies, both of which were on the brink of destruction. Mara, Narina's voice broke through her thoughts, calm and steady. She approached from behind, her silhouette just visible in the dim light. The humans are gathering. It is time. Mara turned to face her aunt, who was holding a long, smooth staff. Her expression was solemn, yet there was an edge of determination in her gaze. Mara could see the depth of the responsibility Narina carried, and the burden she had taken on since her mother's disappearance. Narina had always been the one who guided her, the one who protected her. But now, the role of protector seemed to be shifting. Time for what? Mara asked, her voice uncertain. It is time for you to meet the humans, Narina replied. They have been watching the sea for too long, and the time for hiding is over. We must show ourselves, Mara. We must take the first step toward bridging the gap between our two worlds. Mara felt a chill run down her spine. But the humans, they hate us. They see us as monsters. Narina nodded. I know. But we cannot let fear dictate our future. The curse can only be broken if both sides are willing to open their hearts, to listen. If we remain hidden, we will lose the chance for peace. Mara swallowed hard, the weight of the task before her settling into her bones. How could she approach the humans, the very people who had cast her into the sea as a witch? How could she make them see that she was not their enemy, that she was their salvation? As if reading her thoughts, Narina continued, you do not need to convince them all at once. Just a few will be enough. The right few. The ones who still believe in the possibility of peace. Mara nodded, though doubt still gnawed at her. The ocean and the land had been divided for so long, and the scars between them ran deep. Would a few people really make a difference? Where do we go? Mara asked, standing up and brushing the sand from her legs. Follow me, Narina said, turning towards the water. I will take you to a place where the humans gather. A village, not far from here. There are a few there who are not so quick to judge, who will listen. Mara hesitated, but Narina's calm assurance pushed her forward. With a deep breath, she followed her aunt into the water, the coolness of the ocean enveloping her as she dove below the surface. They swam in silence, the only sounds the rhythmic flow of water and the occasional shift of a fish in the dark depths. The further they went, the more distant the world above seemed, as if the ocean were taking them to a place beyond the reach of time and space. After what felt like an eternity, the ocean's depths began to lighten. Ahead, Mara could see the faint outline of a coastline, a shadow against the horizon. The lights of a village twinkled in the distance, and Mara's heart beat faster. This was the world of humans, the land that had once rejected her. They surfaced in a secluded cove near the village, hidden from view. Nerina gestured for Mara to stay close as they made their way toward the shore. The salty air carried the scent of wood smoke and earth, and the sounds of the village, laughter, talking, the clang of metal on metal, drifted over the waves. As they crept closer to the shore, Mara's thoughts raced. Who would they meet here? Who could possibly listen to a mermaid and a girl who had been cast out for being different? And yet, she knew that there was no other choice. The war was coming, and the curse could not be lifted through fear. They made their way into the village, careful to stay in the shadows. The streets were dimly lit by flickering lanterns, casting long, dancing shadows on the ground. As they moved silently through the narrow alleys, Mara could hear hushed voices, people whispering about the strange occurrences near the ocean. She could sense their suspicion, their fear. But there was something else in the air too, something Mara could not quite place, but it felt like hope. They reached the center of the village, where a small gathering was taking place around a fire. Several people sat in a circle, their faces illuminated by the flames. Mara and Nerina stayed hidden in the darkness, watching carefully. One of the villagers, a tall man with graying hair, was speaking. "We cannot keep turning our backs on the sea. It is time we face the truth. The merfolk are not the enemy, they never were." The others around the fire murmured in agreement, though a few still seemed uneasy. Mara's heart quickened. Could these people be the ones who would listen? Could they be the key to ending the war? Nerina leaned closer to Mara and whispered, "This is our chance. We must approach them carefully, slowly. Let them see who you really are." Mara nodded, though her nerves were on edge. The voices around the fire grew louder, and she could see the flickering of anxious glances. She took a deep breath and stepped into the circle of light. At first, there was a stunned silence. The villagers stared at her, their eyes wide with disbelief. Mara's heart raced, but she stood tall, her shoulders squared. "I am Mara," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I am the daughter of both the sea and the land. I have come to ask for your help, to seek peace between our worlds. The war that is coming will destroy us all, but I believe we can stop it if we work together." For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, one of the villagers, an older woman with a sharp gaze, spoke. "You are the child of the sea, of Calypso and King Jaja?" she asked, her voice quiet but filled with curiosity. Mara nodded, her heart pounding. "Yes. And I am here to ask for peace, not war. We can break the curse, but we must all be willing to sacrifice." The woman stood up, her eyes searching Mara's face as if trying to discern the truth of her words. "We have heard the stories," she said slowly. "But can we really trust you? Can we trust the merfolk? After all that has happened?" Mara felt the weight of her words, the gravity of the decision before her. "I am not asking you to trust me blindly," she said. "I am asking you to give peace a chance. The ocean is not our enemy, and neither are you. We are all bound together in this fight. If we do not act now, there will be nothing left for either of us." The villagers exchanged glances, murmurs of agreement and doubt swirling in the air. It was clear that Mara's words had struck a chord, but whether they would believe her, whether they would trust her, was still uncertain. But for the first time in her life, Mara felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way to heal the wounds of the past and build a future where both kingdoms could thrive. The firelight flickered as Mara stood before the group of villagers, their eyes fixed on her with a mix of curiosity, suspicion, and cautious hope. The silence hung heavy in the air, the only sound the crackling of the fire. She could feel the weight of their gazes, their skepticism, but she also felt a spark of something else, a flicker of possibility. The woman who had spoken first stepped closer, her face softening as she studied Mara. "You say you are the daughter of the sea and the land," she began, her voice thoughtful, yet wary. "And you ask for peace. But how can we trust that the merfolk will not turn on us again? How can we trust you, child of both realms?" Mara took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. The truth of her heritage had always been a source of confusion, even for herself. She had spent most of her life in hiding, never knowing the full extent of who she was, who her parents truly were. Now, standing before these humans, the truth felt heavier than ever. "I do not ask you to trust me blindly," she said, her voice steady but filled with the weight of the reality she carried. "I ask you to trust in the possibility of peace. The curse that binds both our worlds can only be broken if we work together. If we do not, the war that is coming will destroy us all. The merfolk will not stop their retaliation unless we give them a reason to. And the humans, you will only be drawn further into destruction. We are all trapped in this cycle of hatred and fear, but it does not have to be this way." The villagers exchanged glances, murmurs of doubt rippling through the group. The older woman stepped back, her brow furrowed as she considered Mara's words. "You speak of peace," she said, her voice slow and deliberate. "But how can we break the curse? And how can we trust the merfolk not to betray us again?" "I am not asking for blind trust," Mara repeated, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I am asking for a chance. A chance to show that we are more than just enemies, more than just the things we have been made to believe about each other." The silence stretched on, and for a moment, Mara felt the weight of her loneliness, the isolation of being caught between two worlds that had never accepted her fully. She was not fully merfolk, not fully human, and now it seemed she was neither fully trusted by the villagers nor the merfolk. But still, she pressed on, determined to make them see what she saw, the possibility of a future where both sides could live in peace. Finally, the older woman spoke again, her voice softer now. "What must we do?" she asked, her tone cautious, yet tinged with something else, something Mara couldn't quite name. "What will it take to stop this war?" Mara hesitated for a moment before speaking, knowing the weight of her next words. "It will take both sides to let go of their pride and their need for power. The merfolk must be willing to give up their claim to the ocean, and the humans must be willing to relinquish their hold on the throne. Only when both sides are willing to sacrifice something precious can the curse be lifted." The villagers were silent for a long time, and Mara could feel the tension in the air. The thought of giving up their pride, their power, this was no small ask. For the humans, the throne represented everything they had fought for, everything they had built. And for the merfolk, the ocean was their lifeblood, their home, and their heritage. But in the end, it was the woman who had first spoken that broke the silence. Perhaps we can give peace a chance," she said, her voice laced with uncertainty, but also with a glimmer of hope. "But it will not be easy. The king, he will not give up his throne willingly. And the merfolk, they will not stop until they have what they want." Mara nodded, understanding the gravity of what she was asking. "I know it will not be easy. But we must try. If we do not, we will all be lost." The woman stepped back, her expression pensive. After a long moment, she finally spoke. "We will speak with the others. But you must know this, child, the road ahead will be perilous. There are many who will not be willing to listen, who will not believe that peace is possible. You may face resistance, even from your own people." Mara's heart sank, but she knew this was the truth. The road to peace would not be easy, and it would not be without its challenges. But it was the only road she could take. "We will do what we can," the woman added, her voice now resolute. "But you must also be prepared for the consequences. There will be those who will fight against you, those who will seek to tear down everything you are trying to build." Mara's resolve hardened. "I am ready. I will not give up. I will do whatever it takes to stop this war, to break the curse, and to bring both sides together." The older woman studied her for a moment longer, and then nodded. "Very well. We will stand with you, for now. But be warned, if this peace fails, it will not be the merfolk who will be blamed. It will be the humans who turn their wrath on you." Mara swallowed hard, the weight of the warning settling in her chest. But she nodded, knowing that there was no turning back now. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was the only one that held any hope. As the villagers began to disperse, one of them, a young man with a nervous glance, lingered behind. He approached Mara hesitantly, his eyes darting between her and the others. You really are the daughter of Calypso and King Jaja, aren't you?" he asked, his voice full of awe. Mara nodded, her heart still heavy with the knowledge of what that meant. Yes. And I'm here to stop the war. To break the curse. The young man seemed to hesitate, as if trying to decide whether to trust her. After a long moment, he spoke again, his voice quieter this time. If you can stop this war, if you can really do what you say you can, then I will help you. I don't know if the others will listen, but I will. Mara felt a flicker of hope ignite in her chest. Perhaps this was the beginning of something greater. Perhaps there were more who were willing to help her, who believed in the possibility of peace. Thank you, she said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. The young man gave her a small, uncertain smile before disappearing into the shadows, leaving Mara to contemplate the road ahead. She knew the journey would not be easy, and that she would face many more challenges along the way. But for the first time in a long while, she felt as though she was not alone in this fight. As Nerina rejoined her, her face grim, Mara turned to her aunt and spoke with a newfound determination. We have made the first step. Now, we must speak to the merfolk. Nerina nodded, though there was a shadow in her eyes. The merfolk will not be as easily swayed as the humans. We have made enemies of them for centuries. But if we are to have any hope of ending this war, we must try. Together, they turned toward the sea, the dark waters stretching out before them. The storm was still brewing on the horizon, but Mara was ready. She would face whatever came next, whatever challenges the future held, because she knew that this was her only chance to save both kingdoms. And so, they swam into the depths, the cold water closing around them like a shroud, as Mara prepared to face the merfolk and the future that awaited her. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale silver light across the water as Mara and Nerina swam deeper into the ocean. The currents tugged at their bodies, the cool water swirling around them, but Mara's mind was focused elsewhere, on what lay ahead. She had made her first step toward peace, but the real challenge awaited her beneath the waves. For centuries, the merfolk had lived in isolation, their hearts filled with bitterness and resentment toward the humans. To them, the land dwellers were the enemy. They had been mistreated, exploited, and betrayed for far too long, and the thought of reconciliation felt as distant as the surface of the ocean itself. But Mara had no choice. She had to try. The dark ocean floor stretched out before them, lit only by the glow of bioluminescent fish that swam past. The underwater kingdom of the merfolk, Nerina's home, lay in the depths, a vast city of coral and stone, with towering structures that seemed to rise from the ocean floor like ancient ruins. The air felt heavy with the weight of history here, and Mara could feel the presence of countless generations of merfolk who had lived and died in these waters. As they approached the gates of the kingdom, Mara's heart pounded in her chest. She had heard stories about the merfolk's pride and their deep sense of loyalty to their people. To them, a betrayal was unforgivable, and the sins of the past still echoed in their songs. Nerina sensed Mara's unease and turned to her, her face as unreadable as the ocean itself. Remember, child, she said softly, her voice carrying through the water like a whisper, the merfolk will not forgive easily. They will see you as a symbol of the union between the humans and the sea, and to many of them, that is the worst betrayal of all. Mara nodded, her resolve hardening. I have no choice. I must speak to them. The gates to the underwater kingdom creaked open, revealing the vast city beyond. Merfolk moved gracefully through the water, their silvery tails flashing in the dim light, their eyes wary and watchful as they caught sight of the newcomers. The air was thick with the scent of salt water and seaweed, and the murmur of voices filled the space as the merfolk gathered around them. At the center of the city, a throne of coral and pearls awaited. Mara knew who sat upon it without needing to look, the queen of the merfolk, Calypso. Her mother. But Calypso was not just a queen, she was a ruler who had borne the pain of centuries of human cruelty. She was a woman who had once loved a human king, only to be betrayed by him and by her own kind. And though she had given birth to Mara, the child who was the fruit of that forbidden love, she had never allowed herself to love the child fully. She had hidden Mara away in the depths, hoping to shield her from the harshness of both worlds. Now, Mara was about to confront the woman who had both given her life and caused her so much pain. It was a confrontation that felt long overdue, but Mara knew that it would not be an easy one. As they approached the throne, the merfolk fell silent, their eyes fixed on the two women. Calypso's gaze was cold, her face set in an expression of regal detachment. Her long, flowing hair was crowned with seashells, and her skin shimmered with the light of the ocean's depths. But Mara could see the storm brewing in her eyes, the years of anger, of loss, of heartbreak. "Mara," Calypso's voice was low and rich, like the sound of waves crashing against rocks. "You return to me at last, child. But what is this foolishness you bring with you? Have you come to beg for my forgiveness? Or are you here to repeat the mistakes of your father?" Mara took a deep breath, her heart pounding as she stood before her mother. "I have not come to beg, Mother. I have come to ask for your help. The curse that binds both our worlds can only be broken if we work together. The humans and the merfolk must put aside their differences, or we will all be destroyed." Calypso's eyes narrowed. "The humans? You still have faith in them? After all they have done to us? You, who are of both worlds, dare speak to me of peace?" "I am of both worlds," Mara said, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "But I am not asking for blind trust. I am asking for a chance, for both of us to end this cycle of hatred and destruction. The humans are not our enemies. It is the curse that has made them so." Calypso's expression softened for a brief moment, but then her eyes darkened once again. "You do not understand, Mara. The humans have poisoned everything we are. They took your father from me, and in doing so, they took everything I had. They stole the ocean from us, destroyed our sanctuaries, and poisoned our waters with their greed. How can you ask me to forget that? How can you ask me to forgive them?" "I do not ask for you to forget, Mother," Mara said gently. "But I ask for us to move forward. I ask for us to stop this war before it consumes us all." Calypso looked away, her gaze drifting toward the dark horizon of the ocean. "You speak of peace as though it is a simple thing. But peace is a lie, Mara. It is a dream that the humans have never believed in, a dream that we can never have." "I don't believe it's a lie," Mara said softly, her voice filled with a quiet determination. "I believe it's possible. But we must be willing to fight for it, not with weapons, but with our hearts. We must be willing to make sacrifices." The silence between them stretched long, and Mara could feel the weight of her mother's thoughts pressing down on her. Finally, Calypso spoke, her voice quiet but resolute. "I will not stand by and let my people be destroyed. But I will not make peace with the humans unless they prove to me that they are worthy of it. And you, Mara, must prove to me that you can bridge the gap between us." Mara nodded, understanding the challenge before her. "I will prove it. I will do whatever it takes." And with that, Calypso turned away, signaling the end of their conversation. But Mara knew this was just the beginning. She had earned her mother's trust, if only a little, but the road ahead would not be easy. The merfolk had their own agenda, and the humans had their own fears. But Mara was determined to face them both, no matter the cost. As she swam back toward the gates, Nerina by her side, Mara's heart was filled with a sense of purpose. The battle for peace had begun, and though the future was uncertain, Mara knew that she had taken the first step. And sometimes, that was all it took. The waters churned with an uneasy rhythm as Mara and Nerina swam back toward the surface. The weight of her conversation with Calypso lingered in the depths of her mind, heavy and unyielding. Her mother's bitterness was something Mara had expected, but the reality of it was harder to bear than she had imagined. The ocean itself seemed to echo with the sorrow and rage that had shaped the merfolk's world for centuries. Nerina, silent as ever, swam alongside her. Mara could feel the older mermaid's watchful presence, her eyes always scanning the horizon. It wasn't just the physical dangers of the ocean they had to worry about now. The merfolk, with all their power, had their own politics, their own loyalties, and not all of them were ready to accept the idea of peace. Even if Calypso, their queen, had shown a flicker of agreement, that didn't mean the others would follow. "I know what you're thinking," Nerina said suddenly, her voice cutting through the current. "It wasn't easy. But you handled yourself well. For now, that's all you can do." Mara nodded, grateful for Nerina's words but unsure how to process them. She won't forgive the humans, not fully. And without her full support, there's no chance for peace. There is always a chance, Narina replied, her voice firm. But peace, true peace, takes time. It won't come with a single gesture or conversation. Mara remained silent, her thoughts swirling as they approached the surface. The moonlight broke through the water, casting its silver glow on the rocky coastline ahead. As they neared the shore, Mara's mind returned to the humans, the villagers who had listened to her plea, the ones who had shown some hope for peace. Would they hold firm, or would they fall prey to the fear and hatred that had driven the conflict for so long? Their world felt more fragile than ever before, balanced on the edge of a knife. One wrong move, and everything could fall apart. As they reached the shore, Mara climbed out of the water, Narina following closely behind her. The cool night air brushed against her skin, the scent of salt water mingling with the earthiness of the land. They walked in silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts, until they reached the village. The firelight from the evening gathering flickered in the distance, and Mara's heart quickened. She had left in haste earlier, but now she needed to return. She had to gauge the villagers' resolve. Had they truly accepted her plea, or were they only humoring her? "Stay close," Narina murmured, her tone serious. "The humans are fickle, and those who are afraid will turn quickly. There will be those who think you have gone too far." Mara nodded, steeling herself. She had to be strong, for the sake of both worlds. She couldn't let fear rule her now, not when so much was at stake. They approached the village from the edge of the clearing, the soft murmur of voices rising in the air. As they stepped into the light of the fire, the villagers looked up, their faces a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. The older woman who had spoken to Mara before was there, standing among them, her expression unreadable. "You've returned," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "We thought you had gone for good." "I couldn't leave," Mara replied, her voice steady. "Not yet. I need your help, now more than ever." The woman raised an eyebrow. "And what help would that be, child?" "The merfolk are not as ready to forgive as I had hoped," Mara said, her words measured. "But there is still hope. If we can show them we are sincere, that we are willing to meet them halfway, they may listen. But the peace won't be easy. It will take sacrifice." The villagers exchanged glances, the air thick with tension. Mara could feel the weight of their judgment pressing on her, the fear and distrust that lingered beneath their polite faces. There were those who would never trust the merfolk, and there were those who feared the consequences of peace. "You ask us to risk everything for a chance at peace with those who have hurt us," the woman asked, her voice rising. "Do you know how many of our kin have been lost to their wrath? How many ships they've sunk, how many lives they've taken? Do you think they will ever be satisfied?" "I don't know," Mara admitted, her heart heavy. "But I know this, if we don't try, we will never have a chance at peace. The war will never end. The curse will never be broken." A murmur of disagreement rippled through the villagers, and Mara's stomach churned. She could feel the walls closing in around her, the sense of helplessness creeping into her chest. Narina, standing by her side, remained silent, but Mara knew her aunt was watching carefully, gauging the situation with a practiced eye. The older woman stepped forward, her face a mixture of fear and defiance. "You may speak of peace, child, but peace will not heal the wounds of the past. Peace will not bring back those we have lost. Peace will not stop the merfolk from coming for us." "I know," Mara said softly. "But peace is the only way forward. And if I have to face the wrath of both the humans and the merfolk, I will. But I need you to stand with me. If we can prove to them that we are strong enough to forgive, strong enough to look beyond the past, then we can end this curse. But it will take all of us. It will take sacrifice." The silence that followed was thick, heavy with unspoken words. The villagers looked at each other, their eyes shifting from Mara to the flames, and back again. Finally, the older woman spoke, her voice soft but firm. "We will give you a chance," she said, her tone resolute. "But you must understand, there are many who will not follow. There are those who will not believe that peace is possible. There are those who will fight against you." "I know," Mara replied. "But I cannot stop. I will not stop." The woman nodded, her face somber. "Then go. Do what you must. We will hold our breath, and we will hope." With those words, Mara knew she had earned their cautious support. But it was only the beginning. The road ahead would be full of obstacles, full of those who would seek to tear apart everything she was trying to build. As the fire flickered behind her, Mara turned to Nerina, her resolve hardening once again. "We need to speak to the other merfolk. The ones who still resist. We need to make them understand that the curse will only end if we work together." Nerina nodded, her eyes sharp with understanding. "It will not be easy. There are many who will fight against you, Mara. But you must not lose sight of what you are trying to accomplish." Mara looked back at the villagers, their faces filled with uncertainty but also a spark of hope. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. And Mara knew that every step forward, no matter how small, was one step closer to breaking the curse and finding peace. But as they turned toward the ocean once more, Mara couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing on the horizon, a storm that would test everything she had fought for. And the true battle had only just begun. The days that followed were a whirlwind of uncertainty, as Mara worked tirelessly to bring both humans and merfolk together. With the villagers' reluctant approval, she began preparing to return to the ocean, this time with a different approach. It was not enough to merely speak of peace, she needed to prove that both sides were willing to make sacrifices for the greater good. But with every step she took, the weight of her responsibility grew heavier. She had to convince not just her mother, Queen Calypso, but the entire Merfolk Council that peace was worth pursuing. And even more difficult, she had to find a way to earn the trust of the warriors, those who had suffered the most at the hands of humans and would never consider a truce without bloodshed. Mara could feel the mounting pressure as she paced the shores of Mariva, her heart racing. The ocean stretched out before her, its vastness both comforting and intimidating. The battle ahead was more than just a physical one, it was a war of hearts and minds, and Mara knew that she would need every ounce of strength to face the challenges ahead. "Are you ready, child?" Nerina's voice broke through her thoughts. The older mermaid had been a steady presence by her side, watching over her like a protective shadow. She had seen the inner turmoil that Mara had tried so hard to hide, and yet, she never faltered in her belief that Mara was the key to bridging the gap between the two worlds. "I'm not sure if I'm ever ready for this," Mara confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I know I can't turn back now." Nerina nodded, her gaze sharp. "You must go to the council first. Only after you have their support can you hope to speak to the warriors. And even then, it will be a battle of wills. They have not forgotten the pain the humans have caused." "I know," Mara replied, her jaw tightening with determination. "But I must try." With that, they set off toward the underwater kingdom. The journey felt different now, the weight of expectation pressing down on Mara's shoulders. The silence between her and Nerina was heavy, but there was an unspoken understanding between them. Both knew the path they were walking was fraught with danger, but they were willing to face it together. As they approached the gates of the Merfolk Kingdom, the familiar sight of the coral towers rose before them. The city was alive with activity, but there was a tension in the air, one that Mara could feel deep within her bones. The merfolk were preparing for war, even as the human villagers began to show signs of hope. It was a delicate balance, one that could easily tip in favor of chaos if Mara couldn't change the hearts of those who had been wronged for so long. Inside the kingdom, the council was waiting for her. The council chamber was vast and dimly lit, with towering statues of past merfolk kings and queens lining the walls. At the center of the room stood Queen Calypso, her regal presence commanding the attention of all in the room. Her eyes locked onto Mara as she entered, and for a moment, the entire world seemed to pause. "You return," Calypso said, her voice cold and measured. "Have you come to tell me more of your peace? Do you truly believe that the humans are worthy of it?" Mara stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "I believe peace is the only way forward, Mother. But I cannot do this alone. I need your support, and the support of the council." Calypso's expression remained unchanged, but Mara could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. The queen had always been a woman of fierce conviction, but even she could not deny that Mara's words held some truth. The council members, seated on their thrones of coral and seaweed, exchanged glances. The room was filled with murmurs of doubt and anger, the voices of those who had lost so much to the humans. Some still wore the scars of the battles they had fought, while others carried the pain of generations of suffering. One of the council members, an older mermaid with long, flowing white hair, stood and addressed Mara directly. "Do you think that peace will erase the bloodshed of the past? Do you think that the loss of our kin will simply vanish because you speak of peace?" "I don't think peace will erase the past," Mara replied firmly, her voice steady. "But it can stop the cycle of revenge. The humans have lost just as much as we have. We must show them that we are willing to rebuild, not destroy." Another council member, a younger mermaid with sharp, calculating eyes, spoke up. "You speak of rebuilding, but what of our warriors? What of those who are still ready to fight? If we do not strike now, we will lose the chance forever." "I know the warriors will not forgive easily," Mara said, turning her gaze to meet each council member. "But I ask you to trust me. I ask you to give peace a chance. It is the only way to end the curse, to stop the war before it destroys both our worlds." Calypso's eyes softened for a moment, but the weight of her past still hung heavy on her. "And what of the humans? How can you be sure they will not betray us again? How can you be sure that they will keep their word?" Mara took a deep breath, knowing that this was the moment that would decide everything. "I cannot promise that they will not betray us. But I can promise that we will fight for peace, not just with words, but with actions. If the humans will not keep their word, then I will face the consequences. But I will not let fear guide me. I will not let our people continue to live in the shadow of this curse." The room fell silent, the weight of Mara's words hanging in the air. It was a gamble, a risk that could either unite their people or lead to their destruction. But Mara knew that it was the only path left. After what felt like an eternity, Queen Calypso spoke, her voice quiet but filled with authority. "Very well, Mara. You have earned the right to speak to the warriors. But know this, if they do not agree, there will be no turning back." Mara nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. "I understand. I will speak to them." And with that, the council reluctantly gave their consent. But Mara knew that the real battle was still ahead. The warriors, with their rage and their pain, would not be so easily swayed. As she left the chamber, Nerina by her side, Mara could feel the weight of her task pressing on her. The tide had turned, but it was still uncertain whether peace would survive. The deep, rhythmic pulse of the ocean seemed to echo through Mara's bones as she made her way to the warriors' gathering. The currents twisted around her, like the silent whispers of the past. She had known this part of the kingdom all her life, knew the strength of the warriors who called the ocean their battlefield, who held the pain of centuries within their hearts. But today, they were not the warriors she had known in the stories. Today, they were an army, poised on the edge of a deadly war. And Mara, their blood kin, was about to walk into their midst, to plead for peace when all they had ever known was the relentless tide of conflict. Nerina swam silently beside her, her expression unreadable. The older mermaid had always been a shadow, watching over Mara like a silent sentinel, her eyes always searching for danger. It was clear that she was not entirely convinced by Mara's plan, but she would support her, because it was Mara's destiny, and Nerina had made her choice long ago. Mara's thoughts drifted back to the council, to the reluctant words of approval that had been given. Queen Calypso had agreed, but with caution. The warriors, however, were a different matter. They had known nothing but war for generations, their hearts hardened by the loss of their loved ones, their comrades, their kingdom. As they approached the heart of the warriors' camp, the murmur of voices grew louder. The warriors were gathered in a vast arena carved from the coral reefs, their armor of shells and stone gleaming under the pale light that filtered down from the surface. They were waiting for Mara to make her move, to either stand with them or stand against them. At the center of the arena stood a towering figure. His presence was undeniable, a warrior whose name was whispered in fear by both merfolk and humans alike. His armor was adorned with the bones of creatures long forgotten, and his eyes, black as the deepest depths of the ocean, glowed with an intensity that sent shivers through Mara's spine. This was Kovu, the leader of the warriors. He was a legend among the merfolk, a force of nature that had never known defeat. His loyalty to Queen Calypso was unquestionable, but it was clear that his loyalty to the idea of peace was more fragile. Why have you come, Mara? Kovu's voice rumbled through the water, deep and powerful, like the thunder of a storm. What hope do you have to bring peace to those who have lost everything? Can your words heal the wounds that have festered for centuries? Mara felt a cold rush of fear wash over her, but she fought to keep her voice steady. I believe peace is the only way to end the suffering. We've lost so much already. If we keep fighting, we will have nothing left. The warriors shifted uneasily, their eyes narrowing, as if unsure whether to trust her or to view her as a traitor. Kovu took a step closer, his massive form casting a shadow over Mara. Peace is a luxury we cannot afford, he said, his voice low and dangerous. You speak of loss, but do you know what it is to watch your kin drown, to feel the weight of their deaths as if it were your own? What do you know of our pain, Mara? What do you know of the sea's unforgiving rage? Mara swallowed, feeling the weight of Kovu's words pressing down on her. I know what it is to lose, Kovu, she said quietly. I know what it is to feel the sting of death, to live with the scars it leaves behind. But I also know that continuing this cycle will not bring them back. The humans, my father's people, are not our enemies. They, too, have suffered. If we keep fighting, we will destroy each other. Kovu's gaze hardened. And what of the humans' betrayal? What of the blood they have spilled? How can you ask us to forgive them, to let them live in peace when they have done so much harm? Mara stood tall, her heart racing, but her resolve unshaken. I cannot undo the past, Kovu. But I can offer a future where we do not repeat it. We can break the curse. We can stop the war. But we cannot do it alone. I need you. The kingdom needs you. The humans need you. Together, we can create something better. For a long moment, the arena was deathly silent. The warriors watched her, their eyes filled with suspicion, doubt, and, in some cases, fear. The ocean around them seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Kovu's response. At last, the warrior leader spoke, his voice hard as stone. You ask for peace, Mara. But peace is not free. If we are to end this war, there will be a price. And that price will not be paid in words alone. Mara's heart pounded in her chest. I understand. I am willing to pay the price, whatever it is. But we must act now, before it is too late. Kovu studied her for a long moment, his piercing gaze seeming to cut right through her. The tension in the water was palpable, thick with the weight of history, of pain, and of the possibility that Mara might be the only one who could change the course of the future. Finally, Kovu spoke, his voice softening just a fraction. You are brave, Mara. Perhaps too brave for your own good. But your courage is not without merit. If you truly believe in this peace, if you truly believe in your cause, then you must prove it. Mara's breath caught in her throat. How? You will face the trials of the deep, Kovu said. The trials that have tested every warrior before you. If you survive, you will have earned the right to speak for both our people. If you fail, well, then you will have proven that peace is not meant for us. Mara felt a surge of adrenaline course through her veins. The trials of the deep were legendary, dangerous tests of strength, wit, and courage. Many had failed. Many had died. But this was the test she had to face if she wanted to bring peace. I will do it, she said, her voice firm. I will face the trials. Kovu nodded, his expression unreadable. Then prepare yourself. The trials begin at dawn. As the warriors dispersed, leaving Mara alone in the vast arena, she could feel the weight of her task settling over her once again. The trials would not be easy. But if they were the only way to earn the warriors' trust, then she would face them head-on. Nerina approached her, her face etched with concern. Are you sure, Mara? The trials are, no one has survived them easily. Mara turned to Nerina, her resolve unwavering. I don't have a choice, Aunt. I have to do this. For both our worlds. Nerina sighed but nodded. Then I will stand by you, as always. You are not alone. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Mara prepared herself for the trials ahead. The future of both the human and merfolk kingdoms rested on her shoulders. She had come this far. Now, she had to prove that peace was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The first rays of dawn pierced the deep blue waters of the ocean, casting an ethereal glow over the coral-covered arena. Mara stood at its edge, the water lapping gently around her legs, her heart pounding like the rhythm of a distant drum. The trials were about to begin, and she could feel the weight of every pair of eyes upon her. Nerina stood by her side, her expression serious but filled with quiet encouragement. "Remember, Mara," she said softly, "these trials are more than physical strength. They are tests of your mind, your spirit, and your heart. Trust yourself." Mara nodded, though her mind was racing. She had never faced anything like this before, nothing that required both strength and wisdom in equal measure. She had heard the stories of those who had attempted the trials in the past, of warriors who had failed to survive, and of those who had succeeded, only to be changed forever. But she had no choice. If she wanted to bring peace, she had to prove herself worthy. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Kovu emerged from the shadows of the arena, his massive form casting a long, dark silhouette against the shimmering waters. Behind him, the warriors gathered, their faces solemn and unreadable. The council had given their blessing, but it was the warriors who would decide her fate. Kovu's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Mara, daughter of the sea and the land, you seek to end the war. But before you can ask us to lay down our weapons, you must prove your strength. You must prove your heart. You must prove that you are worthy of the peace you seek." He gestured toward the arena, where a series of challenges awaited her. The first trial was a test of strength, a battle against a creature of the deep, one that had terrorized the merfolk for centuries. The second trial would test her wisdom, forcing her to solve an ancient puzzle that had never been solved by any merfolk before. The third trial would test her heart, challenging her to face her deepest fears. "Each trial will test a different part of you," Kovu continued. "Survive them all, and you will earn the right to speak for both our people. Fail, and you will have proven that peace is not meant for our kind." Mara took a deep breath, her heart racing as she stepped forward into the arena. The water seemed to close around her like a thick veil, and the pressure of the moment threatened to overwhelm her. But she fought to steady her breathing, to focus on the task ahead. The first challenge began without warning. From the depths of the arena, a massive shape rose, a serpent-like creature with scales that gleamed like polished emeralds, its eyes glowing with an eerie, unearthly light. Its body twisted and coiled, moving with lightning speed through the water, its sharp fangs bared as it hissed at Mara. The warriors watched intently, their eyes fixed on the battle that was about to unfold. Nerina's face was tight with worry, but she said nothing. The trial had begun, and Mara had no choice but to face it head-on. The serpent lunged, its powerful body shooting toward her like an arrow. Mara instinctively dove into the water, narrowly avoiding the creature's snapping jaws. The water churned violently as the serpent turned, readying itself for another strike. It was fast, far faster than anything Mara had ever encountered. But she was not alone in this fight. The power of the sea was with her, and she had learned to harness its strength. Mara called upon the energy of the ocean, reaching deep within herself to connect with the tides, the currents, and the ancient forces that governed the waters. She could feel the pulse of the sea in her veins, a surge of energy that flowed through her like a current, guiding her movements. As the serpent lunged again, Mara twisted in the water, narrowly avoiding its bite. With a burst of speed, she darted forward, using the force of the ocean to propel herself. She grabbed hold of the creature's scales, her fingers digging into its slippery surface. The serpent hissed, thrashing wildly, but Mara held on, her grip tightening with each passing second. The battle raged on, the serpent's strength pushing Mara to her limits. But she refused to give up. With one final surge of energy, she plunged her hand into the creature's side, summoning the power of the ocean to strike at its heart. The serpent let out a final, anguished cry before sinking into the depths, defeated. Mara gasped for breath as she floated in the still water, her body trembling with exhaustion. The warriors were silent, their expressions unreadable. But Mara had completed the first trial. She had proven her strength. Kovu's voice broke the silence. "The first trial is complete. You have shown your strength, Mara. But strength alone will not win this war. The next trial awaits." Mara nodded, her breath still heavy in her chest. She had succeeded, but there was no time to rest. The second trial was already beginning. The waters around her shifted, and before her, an ancient stone structure rose from the depths, a puzzle of intricate carvings and twisting paths. It was the puzzle of the ancients, a riddle that had stumped the greatest minds of the merfolk for generations. This trial will test your wisdom, Kovu explained. Solve the puzzle, and you will prove that you have the mind to lead both our people. Fail, and the consequences will be dire. Mara swam toward the stone structure, her mind racing. She had heard of the puzzle before, but she had never attempted to solve it. It was said that the puzzle was alive, that it could read the minds of those who tried to solve it, twisting and shifting with every move. But Mara was not afraid. She had faced challenges before, and this one would be no different. She studied the carvings on the stone, her eyes narrowing as she traced the ancient symbols. The puzzle seemed to shift beneath her gaze, the paths twisting and turning as if they were alive. But Mara was determined. She had the wisdom of both worlds within her, and she would not be defeated by a riddle. For hours, she worked at the puzzle, her fingers tracing the stones, her mind racing with every possible solution. The water around her seemed to hold its breath as she finally placed the last piece into place. With a soft click, the puzzle unlocked, and the stone structure collapsed, revealing a hidden passageway. Kovu's voice echoed through the arena. The second trial is complete. You have proven your wisdom, Mara. But the final trial awaits. It will test your heart. Mara swam through the passage, her body heavy with exhaustion. She had completed the first two trials, but the final one would be the hardest of all. It would test not her strength, not her wisdom, but her very soul. The final trial, Mara knew, would be the most challenging of all. The first two had tested her body and mind, pushing her to her physical and intellectual limits. But the trial of the heart was different. It wasn't a challenge she could face with strength or wisdom alone, it would require her to confront the deepest parts of herself, the fears and insecurities she had carried with her for as long as she could remember. The waters around her seemed to grow darker as she approached the heart of the arena. The stone walls of the underwater chamber gave way to a vast, swirling whirlpool at the center of the arena, its depths dark and seemingly endless. The air was thick with tension, the silence palpable as every eye in the arena focused on her. Kovu's voice echoed, low and foreboding. This is the final trial, Mara. It is not one you can defeat with force. It will not be won through strategy. The heart's trial is one of courage. You must face your fears, your doubts, and your deepest regrets. Only when you confront them will you find the strength to complete it. Mara felt her stomach twist with dread. She had always known that her heart was a battleground, filled with both light and dark, joy and sorrow. But she had never thought she would have to face it so openly, so brutally. And yet, there was no turning back now. With a deep breath, she swam forward into the whirlpool, the current pulling at her body with a force that threatened to drag her under. But she fought against it, swimming deeper into the heart of the storm. As she descended, the water around her began to shift. The swirling current slowed, and the pressure of the ocean seemed to lift, leaving Mara suspended in a place that felt otherworldly. The water had become still, and before her stood a figure, a shadowy silhouette bathed in a strange, ethereal light. Mara, the voice echoed in her mind, soft and haunting. You have come to face your heart. But do you know what is in it? Do you know the fears that you carry? Mara's pulse quickened. She had heard this voice before, and she knew it instantly. It was her mother's voice, Calypso, the Mermaid Queen. But this was not the queen she had known, not the one who had ruled with strength and wisdom. This was a voice that held a deep sorrow, a voice that seemed to echo through the very depths of her soul. What do you want from me? Mara asked, her voice trembling. Why have you brought me here? The figure before her stepped forward, and Mara saw her mother's face, only, it wasn't quite her. The Mermaid Queen's features were distorted, her eyes filled with sadness and regret. I am not the mother you thought I was, Mara. I have made mistakes, mistakes that have cost you your place in the world, mistakes that have led to the war between the land and the sea. I was selfish. I did not think of you, of your future. And now, you must face the consequences of my actions." Mara felt a wave of grief wash over her, but she stood her ground. "You were not the only one who made mistakes, Mother. I, too, have caused harm. I have lived with the shame of being your child, of being cast out by both kingdoms. I have struggled to find my place, to know who I am. I thought I had to prove myself worthy, that I had to be something I'm not." The figure of Calypso's distorted face softened, and a gentle hand reached out to Mara. "You are worthy, Mara. Not because of your blood, but because of your heart. You have already proven your strength and wisdom. Now, you must prove that you can forgive yourself, that you can let go of the fears that have held you captive." Mara's heart clenched. Her mother's words struck a deep chord, and for a moment, she felt as if the weight of the world was pressing down on her. The fear, the doubt, the feelings of inadequacy, all of it came rushing to the surface. She had spent so long running from her own past, from the darkness that lingered in her heart, that she had never truly allowed herself to heal. "You must forgive, Mara," Calypso's voice whispered, echoing in the depths of her mind. "You must forgive yourself, and you must forgive those who have wronged you. Only then will you be able to move forward. Only then will you be free." Mara felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of grief, relief, and longing. She had always felt torn between two worlds, two identities. The daughter of the sea, who had never truly been accepted by the merfolk, and the daughter of the land, who had been cast aside by the humans. She had never truly belonged to either. But now, in this moment, she understood that she was not defined by her blood. She was defined by the choices she made, by the love she carried in her heart. "I forgive you," Mara whispered, the words tumbling from her lips before she even realized it. "I forgive you for the mistakes you made. I forgive myself for the mistakes I've made. And I forgive those who have hurt me. I will no longer carry this burden." As the words left her mouth, the water around her seemed to shift. The whirlpool faded, and the strange, haunting light dimmed. The figure of Calypso smiled, her face no longer distorted by regret, but filled with pride. "You have passed the trial, Mara," Calypso said softly. "You have faced your fears and let them go. You are no longer bound by the past. You are free." Mara felt a warmth spread through her chest, a sense of peace she had never known before. For the first time in her life, she felt whole, no longer divided between two worlds, but standing strong in her own right. As the waters around her cleared, Mara found herself back at the edge of the arena, the warriors watching in silence. Nerina swam to her side, her expression unreadable, but her eyes filled with something that resembled pride. "You did it," Nerina said quietly. "You've passed all 3 trials." Mara nodded, her heart still pounding from the intensity of the final trial. "I did it, but I couldn't have done it alone. I had to face everything I was afraid of." Kovu approached her, his expression as hard as ever, but there was a glint of something else in his eyes, respect. "You have proven yourself, Mara. You have shown us your strength, your wisdom, and your heart. The warriors of the deep will stand with you. You are no longer an outsider. You are one of us." The warriors erupted into applause, their voices rising in unison, and for the first time, Mara felt as though she truly belonged. The war was not over, but this was the first step toward peace. And with the warriors by her side, she knew that she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The final trial was behind Mara, and the warriors of the deep had accepted her as one of their own. But despite the respect she had earned from them, the path ahead was still fraught with challenges. Her heart was lighter than it had ever been, but there was still the matter of the war that loomed between the human kingdom and the underwater realm. Mara's thoughts were consumed with the future. How could she bridge the rift between two worlds so different, yet so intertwined? The ocean had its secrets, its ancient ways that only the merfolk understood, while the human kingdom, led by her father King Jaja, had its own beliefs and desires. Queen Selene, her father's new queen, was as determined as ever to keep the truth of Mara's existence buried. She feared what it might mean for her son's claim to the throne. But Mara knew that in order to bring peace, she had to act now, before the war escalated beyond anyone's control. It was Nerina who helped her formulate a plan. "You must go to the human kingdom, Mara," Nerina said. You have earned the respect of the warriors. Now, you must show the humans who you truly are. Let them see that you are not a threat, but a symbol of hope, a bridge between their world and ours." Mara hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of what was being asked of her. Could she truly confront her father and Queen Selene? Could she bring both kingdoms to the table without risking everything? "There is one way," Mara whispered, a new determination stirring within her. "I will tell my story. I will reveal the truth of my birth, of my parents' love, of the curse that has haunted both our worlds. I will ask them to listen." Nerina nodded, her face filled with pride. "It will not be easy, but it is the only way forward." And so, Mara swam to the surface, emerging from the deep waters like a phoenix rising from the ashes. As the first rays of the sun touched the horizon, she made her way toward the human kingdom, her heart heavy with anticipation. Her mother's words echoed in her mind, "You are no longer bound by the past. You are free." Upon arriving at the human kingdom, Mara was escorted to the Grand Palace, the same castle where her father, King Jaja, ruled. The grand doors opened, revealing the marble halls and towering statues of ancestors long gone. The palace was magnificent, but it felt cold, like a place where secrets were kept locked away. Inside, King Jaja sat upon his throne, his face a mask of authority, while Queen Selene stood beside him, her eyes wary as Mara entered the room. The king's gaze softened as he recognized his daughter, though the weight of his responsibility as a ruler bore heavily upon him. "Mara," King Jaja said, his voice deep and solemn. "You have returned, though I never thought this day would come. What is it that you seek?" Mara stood tall before him, her heart steady despite the fear that threatened to rise. "Father, I seek peace. I seek to end the war between the merfolk and the humans. But first, I must tell you the truth." Queen Selene's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a faint, apprehensive smile. "The truth? What truth? You are nothing but a rumor, a curse upon our people." Mara's gaze hardened. "I am not a curse, Queen Selene. I am your king's daughter, the child of both the sea and the land. My mother is Calypso, the queen of the merfolk, and my father is King Jaja. I was born of their love, but that love triggered a curse that has festered between our worlds for far too long." The room fell silent. The weight of Mara's words hung heavy in the air, and King Jaja's eyes grew wide with disbelief, while Queen Selene's face twisted in fear. She had feared this day, the truth of Mara's existence coming to light. You are my daughter," King Jaja whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. "But why did you leave? Why were you cast out?" Mara took a step forward, her voice filled with both sadness and strength. "I was cast out because of the war between our kingdoms, because of the fear that my existence would be a threat to your rule. The merfolk have suffered under the hands of the humans, and the humans have feared the sea's power. But we are not enemies. We never were." Her words struck a chord deep within King Jaja's heart. He stood from his throne, his face etched with regret. "I never knew you existed. I never knew that your mother was my love, a love I lost to the sea. All these years, I have lived with the weight of my decisions, never knowing I had a daughter who could unite both our worlds." Queen Selene, though still wary, was beginning to soften. Her eyes flickered between Mara and King Jaja, the realization of the truth settling in. "What do you propose, Mara?" she asked, her tone more measured. "How can we end this war?" Mara's eyes gleamed with quiet confidence. "We must lay down our arms, both of us. The merfolk and the humans have fought for far too long, but I believe we can find a way to coexist. I will speak for both my people, the land and the sea. I will offer a peace treaty that acknowledges our shared history and our shared future." King Jaja stepped down from his throne, approaching Mara with open arms. "If you truly believe this is the way forward, my daughter, I will stand with you. The kingdom of Meriva will stand with you." And so, the impossible became possible. The human kingdom, led by King Jaja and Queen Selene, and the underwater realm, led by Nerina and the warriors, agreed to meet for peace talks. They met in the middle, on the shores where the ocean kissed the land, offering olive branches to one another, seeking to heal centuries of mistrust and hatred. In a grand ceremony, Mara stood before the representatives of both kingdoms, her heart full of hope. With her mother's blessings from the sea and her father's support from the land, she forged a new path for both worlds, one of understanding, of unity, and of love. The curse that had haunted both kingdoms for so long was finally broken, and the war came to an end. The merfolk and the humans celebrated together, no longer as enemies, but as allies, bound by the bond of peace. Mara had not only discovered who she was, but she had also shown the world what it meant to truly be free. Mara returned to the ocean, where she had once felt out of place, now feeling at home in both the sea and the land. Her mother, Calypso, greeted her with open arms, proud of the woman she had become. The waters of the deep, once filled with sorrow and strife, now pulsed with hope and possibility. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story of adventure, discovery, and peace, please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on more exciting tales. Your support means the world, and we'd love to bring you more stories that will inspire, entertain, and captivate your imagination.